It's an unconventional film, but it's also something that's not out there yet. It's not a drama film, it's not a documentary, it's not an action movie in any way. It uses conventions, editing techniques from these films, these blockbusters. I have based this film on the idea of the YouTube generation, from short movies that I watch every day, well, short vlogs, short documentaries, and people actually do watch these things, like the Vlogbrothers. I have looked at the big films, things like Life of Pi, Les Miserables, The Perks of Being the Wallflower being one of the inspirations for the tunnel scenes. Most of the shots were shots that I have seen in YouTube videos. I find this media to be very relatable, and also I have made this film for me to look back on and to get inspired by it, to get going again. And you may say that the products that you see on YouTube are not exactly products. The people on YouTube get paid for being on YouTube. People like Vlogbrothers, people like Shay Carl that I've talked about, Mika Kiri. I have used many drama conventions such as dip to black, crossfade. The quote at the beginning of the film is a quote by J.K. Rowling. I had the idea for the quote from Hurt Locker, which I was shown at the beginning of AS. And that was one of the things that many films use. I just found in Hurt Locker. You've probably noticed that I've used loads of fades, which is a convention that is used in most dramas. I think I've used crossfades very effectively. I don't think people can see the crossfades that I've used during the eye scene, the close-up scene, where I put about 20 people in front of the sun, made them stand there for about 30 seconds for me to kind of get a close-up of their eyes and make it all look pretty and bright.
You want to be, and what are you willing to do and to sacrifice to become that person and to achieve your dreams?
Maybe 1/4 of a second fade from one face to another. I think that's how miniature the fades are, but I think it still works better than the cuts. The cuts are quite drastic and you couldn't focus. I got many compliments on that piece of film. I think I have one scene that shows the focus pulls and the use of shallow and deep depth of field, which is this one.
Words become more important than actions. Let your children have dreams.
She looks worried, and I kind of want the audience to feel worried for him or even empathize with her. Even though we see her and him for about maybe a second, maybe two in this film, we have a sense of humanity that you don't see in the other shots. Like, you see Milton, the main actor, talking to the camera, but sometimes some people don't connect with that. You sometimes want real sense of action instead of a set-up scene, and that's understandable. I kind of like both. I'm quite proud of that focus pull. You can look at any Hollywood movie or any documentary or any well-done movie and you will see a focus pull. You will see the focus shift from one person to another. For example, see here, you can see paintings and frames and stuff, and now you go back to my face. Usually focus pulls are more planned, and I think the one that I have in my film was sort of planned. I've planned to do a focus pull somewhere in my film, but I was just filming sporadically and spontaneously during the fighting in their taekwondo class because I couldn't really tell them what to do. They kind of forgot about the camera, which was really good. I tried to represent the words with shots and the other way around. Shots with words, put images into people's heads, even though some of the images were very vague. For example, the one we see at the beginning with the daffodil kind of slowly moving.
We are all equal, and we all have one life to live. Why waste it on greed and jealousy?
And then we start to hear the words about the jealousy. I feel like that is significant. We do often kind of sway and don't really realise that we are jealous or we are spiteful, but we sometimes really are. And I think disruption and the wind and the daffodil kind of shows us and how easily we are swayed by other people's opinions. I wanted to quote a book called Cinematic Storytelling and the description of dissolves, which I have used quite a lot in this film. Dissolves blend one string to another. This is achieved optically by fading out the first shot while the second shot fades up. A dissolve softens a cut. Dissolves can be brief or extended depending how soft the filmmaker wants the effect to be. Dissolves have been a staple technique since the 1920s. Here is a very soft dissolve.
For example, if you go to the seashore and pick up a droplet of water in your hand, how can you then say that that droplet of water is more or less special than all the other billions and trillions of droplets you see in the ocean before you?
I think it's very pleasing to the eye. And it says, for example, if you go to the seashore and pick up a droplet of water in your hand, how can you then say that that droplet of water is more or less special than the billions and trillions of droplets you see in the ocean before you? I find that we often, even though we have our own worlds, we sometimes forget that other people have to live with our decisions. You don't see the difference between different droplets of water. And I think it is used in different films. The representation of the words, again, dissolve kind of shows singularity of the little boy. He's just looking at the scene, admiring the view. He is in his own little world and kind of doesn't care about anyone else at that point. He just looks at the water and kind of doesn't even realize what he's looking at. He's just enjoying the waves and the smell and the ocean and everything that surrounds him. I think that is beautiful. And I think this cross dissolve represents also enjoying life. In all honesty, I haven't actually looked at any films with additive crossfade, which is shown here. The additive dissolve is kind of indie and kind of low budget looking because it is kind of artistic. It's different than short dissolves and cuts and easy on the eye things that you see in Hollywood movies. It kind of flashes and goes into another shot. I liked it because of the colours it uses. It's kind of warm and goldy, which did work with both of the clips, which were golden and yellow, golden, white. I haven't used many dip to blacks. I've used some dip to blacks which accentuated the words. For example,
more and more of the Earth's resources, we will eventually run out, and our children will be left with a world with no means to live and prosper, and their day will be spent in darkness.
Dip to black, and it is a convention used mostly in horrors and thrillers. I haven't looked at those this year. I've looked at them 2 years ago when we were making a horror trailer, and dip to blacks work very well to cut but also to fade and kind of have that little second for people to think and sort of it's a bad thing. Like I've used dip to blacks to kind of accentuate and underline the bad things in our society or underline the bad things I'm speaking about and kind of cut them short. That's the kind of thing that I wanted to show. And I think in many ways horror trailers or even documentaries, some documentaries use it to accentuate exactly that. As you probably see over the course of the 5 or 6 edits that I have on YouTube, you can see me cutting out the cats. I kept getting more footage that fitted better with what I was saying, which meant I could cut out the cats. Also, one thing that I have been told, any positive criticism, was that the cats were domestic and they didn't present what my voiceover was saying, which was that we abuse and mistreat animals and make them fat and then eat them without thinking what kind of life they had. And cats in today's society are treated like kings and queens and have a very good life. I wanted people to feel, but obviously when you look at a cat you're like, oh, and kind of forget about the message of the film. I wasn't as attached to the film at that point, and I think that's something filmmakers do use in films. They try to be detached, which links back to the question about what I've used and learned from different films and different conventions, and talking to people from the industry. I have learned that you need to let go. I have used a convention which is used in many rom-coms, and any kind of scene where people are kissing or are shown any kind of emotion, and the camera wants to kind of see them from every angle. Instead of 360, I did 180. One was Milton, the main actor, and my friend Lapara. I have filmed it about twice or 3 times for each. When I dissolved the 2 clips, and you kind of have the sense of the surroundings changing for both of them. One is more natural, and the other girl is well dressed in a city. I don't think it's overexposed. I wanted it to be very white and kind of so different to what we had with him. And I think it represents 2 worlds, 2 different people, and it kind of merges them. You can kind of play around with the connotations of using girl and a boy. What are they looking for? Why are they looking in the distance? What are they thinking? And I think this, the 180 kind of shows their emotions. In my opinion, can show love, equality, wonder. The surroundings are massively different. You know, it also shows the community, and everyone can kind of pick and choose something that they relate to. And something that I got from it after putting it together, kind of the 2 worlds. I wanted the boy to crossfade with the girl because I realized that just when I was putting it together, that I wanted for the scene to shift from the trees and nature, the natural world and him being healthy, to buildings and pollution and money. I wanted to use a voiceover simply because I wanted an authority figure, putting ideas into words. I kind of wanted, not per se someone like Morgan Freeman, which I absolutely love, but someone that you could relate to. I'm not saying they can't relate to Morgan Freeman, but it's much harder to relate to Morgan Freeman than it is to someone that's 16 to 18 years old, and someone you have been there or you will be there type of person. I feel like many films use voiceovers because of that aspect, the authority figure, someone that will kind of enrich the background and tell you what is happening in the shots. You can either take the voiceover as a narrator of the shots, or you can take him as a authority figure that is kind of explaining what is happening in the film. It all depends on what you're seeing. I can't really decide for you. And I kind of like that. I like letting the audience feel. If you don't like the film, I understand. If you do like the film, I'm very grateful for at least 1 or 2 people to like it. Main directors feel like that. If you don't like it, you don't have to. If you do, I am happy to have enriched your life and not wasted your 5 minutes, the 5 minutes of your life. A convention that develops over the course of the film is the sound, the background music, which was created for my film by Keith Ford. At the beginning, it starts with sad and quite slow and mellow music, a piece that I wanted begin the whole journey that you go on when you start to watch my film. It's kind of a tone that matches the words at the beginning. If you started off with words that at the end of the film and kind of ended with the words that are at the beginning of the film, I think it wouldn't have even touched anyone, because you're starting with the happy and ending with the sad. People want to kind of leave the movie theater or switch off a video with a feeling of happiness, and I think the music lifts you up as you go along. The music picks up when these words are said.
Respect each other's opinions and give to the world as much as the world gives to us. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, You are right.
And you hear the music picking up and going da 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 da, and kind of getting happier, and you know then that in your heart that it lifts you up. It's an opinion, and that's what he's doing. You don't have to do it, but it's something that's positive. Give to the world as much as the world gives to you. And I think the tunnel fitted there perfectly because it's a journey. It's all a journey, I guess. The film is a journey. You go on the journey when you start the film, and when the film ends, you're still on that journey. You kind of want to better yourself. And I want people to get exactly that from the film. Challenging conventions. I have put together a concept where I put a studio shoot, a straight up studio shoot, or I could have put together no studio shoots at all and just put images, just things I filmed, and put the voiceover underneath all the things I filmed. But I thought it would be so disconnecting. It would be just a voice talking about the images. No direct contact with the audience. I want it to be very personal, and sometimes people find it very weird and uncomfortable when the actor breaks the fourth wall and looks straight into the camera. I wanted him to have immediate eye contact with the audience, and I think eyes are the things that we draw attention to. Well, in most occasions that's what we draw attention to, and I think the combination worked well. When I was watching Charlie Chaplin's speech, which I have linked to in one of my earlier posts, in his speech he's on a podium and he's speaking to a group of people. That was one of the concepts and one of the ways that I wanted it all to be like he was talking to an audience, and to have him looking at someone and kind of have the distant looking just off to the distance instead of at the camera. But I thought it through, and if I wanted to do that I would have to, and I did look for many bigger theatres, as you saw at the beginning as well. I've chosen the photography room and worked from there. One of the conventions that I've challenged was using one additive dissolve. I think usually dissolves and edits are quite constant. This one wasn't, and I think not many people kind of noticed, which is something that I wanted. I didn't want it to stand out. I wanted it to flow, as I think many filmmakers want. They just want for people to kind of not question the editing. They just want it to be flawless in a way, but kind of flawless in an editing sense, where the audience doesn't pay attention to the cuts too much, even though, like, for example, Dip to Blacks have a certain meaning, which I've spoken about before, but kind of constant, and the audience kind of gets used to it meaning something, whereas additive dissolve was more of an arty, a different way of dissolving one shot into another rather than it meaning too much. One of the conventions I've challenged was using, in a student film, was using someone else's footage, because I have been looking for footage to fit in the area where I speak about suffering animals. I really couldn't find anything that was hard-hitting enough. And I have looked at different ways of putting the images together to make them look very bad, like very heart throbbing, and using the Dip to Blacks to kind of make it darker, but nothing really worked the way I wanted it to. I have spoken to my teacher about this horse scandal, and she knows me, and she knows that I'm a person that's hit by the scandal, and I haven't eaten any beef since. And that's one of the things that I've challenged. I've spoken about the current events along with the events that have been going on for hundreds of years. I haven't just talked about one period of time. I kind of spoke about a whole range of periods and a whole range of possibilities and inequalities, along with trying for people to be more accepting. I've challenged the type of film that I have made, which I have not seen made by any student. I'm not trying to compare my film to any film that is out there as a blockbuster or as a Hollywood film or documentary. I'm not trying to forcibly make it a documentary or a cinema type of film. I am trying to compare it with films that have the same budget and the same amount of time that it had to be made in. I think that's reasonable. The personal challenge, even though I'm talking about the conventions here, is working in a team, and I have not worked in a huge team. I've worked on my own along with actors and a pianist. I haven't really had a solid team. I had people who would give me ideas, criticize and give me feedback every once in a while, but I haven't had a solid two, maybe one person that I could speak to about it and who cared about the film as much as I did. That was a huge challenge. I think at some points I was just exhausted with the amount of work that I had to do. But overall, I think I have done well, and I have made it. I have not failed to submit my work, which is great. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll speak to you later. Thank you so much for watching, and bye!